In the nomadic and hunter-gatherer life of our ancestors, choosing a safe place to sleep outdoors was always a matter of survival. Unlike us today, who can easily book a hotel or pitch a tent anywhere, people in the past had to face countless dangers, especially from wild predators. That's why the very first and most important skill every adult in the tribe had to master was the art of selecting a safe campsite. They understood that a single wrong decision, like setting up camp right on an animal trail, could turn the whole group into prey before dawn. These animal-made trails, carved smooth by thousands of hooves and paws, were the highways of prehistory. Signs of them weren't hard to read. Packed soil, trampled vegetation, and fresh droppings. Wise people avoided these places at all costs, because pitching camp there was like putting up a giant dinner invitation for wolves, bears, or big cats. Water sources posed another dilemma. Everyone knew that water meant life, but wild animals needed it too. Rivers, streams, and ponds were social clubs, where creatures of all kinds gathered, especially at dawn and dusk. The lesson was simple. Camp close enough to fetch water safely during daylight, but never so close that you blocked the animal's path. Similarly, reading the signs of predator territory was a mandatory skill. Scratches on tree bark, the pungent scent of urine markings, or a cave hidden in the cliffs all served as no trespassing signs that only trained eyes could interpret. Adults taught children early on to recognize these warnings so everyone could contribute to the tribe's safety. Before settling anywhere, the group always sent scouts to inspect the ground. No bent blade of grass or faint paw print was ignored. It was the final safety check before anyone allowed themselves to rest. Through this vigilance, choosing a sleeping spot was no longer instinct but a science of survival, passed down through generations. This careful art is what let our ancestors endure the night safely, even in a world full of predators lurking in the dark. If choosing the right spot was the first step toward survival, then arranging and building the camp was the art of turning that spot into a fortress. Our ancestors never treated sleep carelessly, because they knew that nightfall always brought unpredictable threats. Only by layering their defenses could they rest with any peace of mind. One of their most important innovations was sleeping in circles. When shelters or sleeping spots were arranged in a closed ring, everyone on the outside naturally became a guard for the group. This setup provided 360-degree security and prevented predators from sneaking in unseen. What's more, if danger struck, everyone in the circle could immediately see what was happening at the center and react in unison at the same time. They cleverly used nature to create barriers. Without metal fences or stone walls, they relied on fallen logs, thorny brush, and dense undergrowth to slow predators down. These makeshift walls didn't need to be impenetrable. They just had to make a hungry wolf hesitate long enough for people to notice and prepare. In regions with many bears, some groups went further by building raised sleeping platforms. Just a few feet off the ground could make a bear lose interest. While they can climb, most won't bother unless absolutely necessary. Another key tactic was using the terrain itself. People often built their camps backed against cliffs, giant trees, or steep slopes, eliminating at least one direction of attack. Entrances were marked with carefully placed stones or branches, not for decoration but strategy. A clearly defined entrance meant everyone knew exactly where danger might come from, and guards could focus on fewer vulnerable points instead of watching everywhere at once. Taken together, these defenses formed a layered system. The sleeping circle worked better with barriers, the barriers worked best with marked entrances, and raised platforms were stronger when placed against cliffs. Each element reinforced the others, turning a fragile human camp into a surprisingly tough stronghold. Thanks to this intelligent planning, our ancestors could transform simple shelters into reliable defenses, making the night less about fear and more about survival. Among all the protective measures, fire stood as humanity's most powerful weapon in the night. While camp layout created passive defense, fire was the active shield that kept predators at bay. Our ancestors realized early on that nearly all carnivores, wolves, bears, big cats, feared flames. Wildfires spelled death in their world, So when humans learned to control fire, they gained an unmatched advantage. But keeping fire was more than tossing wood on a pile. The flames had to be kept alive all night long, with someone always awake to tend them. A dying fire meant the defenses had collapsed, leaving the camp exposed. Beyond its heat and light, smoke became a hidden ally. In a world ruled by scent, thick smoke masked human odor completely, leaving predators unable to judge numbers or positions. That uncertainty was enough to make them back off. Clever groups even spread embers around the camp in a glowing ring. It provided warmth, acted as a trip alarm. Any animal stepping on coals would yelp, and gave humans precious warning. Others sprinkled cold ash at the camp's edges, a smell that told predators, "Humans live here, stay away." When they had to move at night, torches served as portable shields. A single flaming stick carried through the darkness could make even bold wolves hesitate. In short, fire was more than warmth and light. It was a 24-hour security system, a psychological weapon, and a symbol of human control over nature. With fire burning at their side, our ancestors could finally close their eyes at night, confident that the darkness no longer belonged only to predators. If fire was the wall of flame, then sound and light were the psychological weapons that turned predators away. Our ancestors understood that most hunters thrived on silence and surprise. By breaking that silence, humans flipped the script. Singing, chanting, or telling stories around the fire wasn't just entertainment. It was a living, breathing sound barrier. Wolves and bears, preferring quiet prey, often avoided such noisy camps altogether. They also devised primitive alarm systems. Shells, bells, or rattles were hung on low branches. If an animal brushed against them, the sudden noise would wake even the heaviest sleeper. And if predators came too close, people didn't hide. They fought back with sudden loud sounds, shouting, clapping, or banging sticks against rocks. The element of surprise often worked better than weapons, making predators believe they had stumbled into a far more dangerous fight. Light, too, was weaponized. Beyond the central fire, humans used moving flames and reflections. A burning branch waved through the night or firelight bounced off polished stones created unpredictable flashes. Predators, especially bears, hated such chaotic light patterns. Combined with human noise, it created the illusion of a larger, more dangerous group. If fire, sound, and light built visible defenses, then scent was the invisible wall that completed the system. Predators relied heavily on smell to find prey, so our ancestors turned that against them. They discovered that by manipulating odors, they could confuse, intimidate, or repel even the boldest hunters. Burning strong-smelling herbs like sage or pine wasn't just ritual. It was survival. Thick herbal smoke masked human scent and overloaded predator noses. Some tribes even mixed different plants to create smoke cocktails that threw animals completely off balance. They also used animal odors strategically. Fat from past hunts was smeared around camp, sending a clear message: dangerous hunters live here. Predators, especially bears, understood the meaning and often backed off. Similarly, wolf or bear urine was collected and sprinkled around the perimeter, mimicking territorial boundaries. Most animals instinctively avoided what they thought was another pack's land. Even more ingenious was the creation of homemade repellents. Wild peppers were crushed and mixed with fat into a pungent paste. Spread around the camp, it burned sensitive noses, teaching animals that human camps meant discomfort. Just as importantly, food odors were carefully managed. Meat scraps, cooking tools, even clothing were sealed in animal bladders or tree hollows to prevent attracting unwanted visitors. Some groups went further, scattering droppings from large predators like bears or lions around camp. Smaller carnivores, smelling a dominant rival, stayed away. This technique created scent maps that rewrote the landscape, telling predators invisible stories of power and danger. Through smoke, fat, urine, peppers, and droppings, humans built an odor-based defense system as effective as any wall. It was subtle but powerful, proving that survival wasn't just about strength but about outsmarting the very senses predators depended on. Our ancestors didn't rely on human senses alone. They formed alliances with animals, turning them into partners in survival. Dogs, among the first domesticated animals, weren't just companions, they were life insurance. With their sharp noses and protective instincts, dogs could sense danger long before humans. A low growl or alert posture was enough to put the camp on guard. In emergencies, they fought fiercely, buying precious time for humans to react. Some tribes also used birds like geese as living alarms. Unlike dogs, these birds rarely slept deeply and reacted loudly to any disturbance. Their honking and flapping could wake an entire camp instantly. Alongside animal allies, humans maintained organized night watches. Adults rotated shifts, sitting by the fire to feed it, listen for unusual sounds, and watch animal behavior. Silent signals like whistles, tossed pebbles, or hand gestures allowed guards to alert others without drawing predators closer. Strong fighters often slept at the edge of the circle, half awake, ready to spring into action. Dogs patrolled the perimeter, marking territory with scent to warn predators off. Over time, humans learned to interpret different barks, knowing which meant a stranger nearby and which signaled immediate danger. Together, humans and animals formed a multi-layered security system. Dogs, birds, and night watchers combined into a living perimeter that made camps far less vulnerable. This partnership proved that survival was never just human against nature, but human working with nature. Survival wasn't only about defending a camp for one night. It was about planning for the changing seasons. Our ancestors understood that predators behaved differently throughout the year, and they adapted accordingly. In spring, bears woke hungry from hibernation. Knowing this, humans left their winter shelters early, before snow fully melted, to avoid crossing paths with starving predators. Summer posed new risks, as many animals raised their young and became fiercely territorial. Camps were built on raised platforms to reduce encounters. In fall, when predators aggressively gathered food for winter, tribes reinforced barriers and camp walls. During winter, shelters became fortresses, solid and insulated, as snow made movements risky and predators more desperate. Humans also tracked migration patterns. When reindeer moved, wolves followed, so tribes shadowed the migrations at a safe distance. During salmon runs, rivers filled with bears, signals to stay away. In every case, humans adapted their movements like chess players, always staying one step ahead of the predator parade. Scouts played a vital role. The best trackers went ahead to check for fresh tracks, dens, or warning signs. Their findings often saved entire groups from walking into danger. By combining short-term vigilance with long-term seasonal strategies, our ancestors turned mobility into a survival art. They didn't just react to predators. They anticipated them, shaping their lives around the rhythms of nature. Even with all these precautions, our ancestors knew no defense was perfect. That's why they always had backup plans for escape and confrontation. Every camp had multiple escape routes, rehearsed daily so even children could run them by instinct. When predators attacked at night, the group didn't panic. They scattered along familiar paths drilled into their memory. Weapons were always kept within arm's reach. Spears, clubs, sharp stones, even digging sticks. Some tribes developed sleeping positions that allowed them to grab weapons instantly in the dark. The goal wasn't to kill a bear or wolf outright, but to buy time and space for the group to escape. Emergency alarm signals were another layer of defense. Instead of panic shouting, which could escalate a predator, people used coded sounds, whistles, stone tapping, or bird calls that roused the group without drawing extra danger. When retreat wasn't possible, tribes fought together in tight defensive circles. The strongest stood on the outside with weapons, while others shouted, banged sticks, and threw sand, ash, or embers. The noise and chaos created the illusion of a much larger force, often enough to make predators retreat. Sometimes burning branches were hurled to shock and confuse attackers. The key to these strategies was simplicity and practice. In moments of fear, complex plans failed. But running along a path practiced dozens of times, grabbing a weapon by reflex, or climbing a familiar tree, that worked. By building escape and confrontation into their daily habits, humans ensured that when danger broke through, they still had the upper hand. These survival drills allowed them not just to endure but to dominate, proving that preparation was stronger than fear.